Good morning, students. Today we come to the last part of your figures of speech, and there are just two figures of speech which are left. Before we go ahead with these two figures of speech, I hope you all have revised your old figures of speech and learned them with the spellings and explanation. I'm also going to be giving you all your homework for your figures of speech, which is based on all the figures of speech that I have taught you all, including the ones that I have revised, which were taught even in the 7th standard, and the new ones which I have taught you all now in the 8th standard. Now, let's go ahead with the two figures of speech. The first one is interrogation. Now, as you know, by the word interrogation itself, it means asking a question. But the difference in this figure of speech and just asking a simple question is that here this figure of speech is a rhetorical question. Now, what is a rhetorical question? I will give you an example. I'm going to give you examples of two questions. The first one, I ask someone, is your name Reshma? Okay. So what that person will say, yes, my name is Reshma. Second question asks, what is your name? Okay, what is your name? Now when you look at this question, what is your name? The name of the person is not given in the question itself. It's just what is your name, and that person will give you a reply, my name is Reshma. Correct. Well, as the first question that I gave you, is your name Reshma? The name of the person is already in the question. The name of the person is already in the question. So that means your answer is already in the question. So the person will either say yes or no. Yes, my name is Reshma. No, my name is not Reshma. Okay. Mostly it is yes. That's why it's called a rhetorical question. Your answer is already in the question itself. So that's the difference between a regular question and a rhetorical question, wherein you have your answer in the question itself. Okay. Now, let's see the example. Or shall I just read this? Interrogation or rhetorical question is the asking of a question not for the sake of getting an answer, but to put a point more effectively. So you're trying to emphasize or make it more sure that this person's name is Reshma. Okay, maybe you know, but you're not very sure, or you're just asking for the sake of asking. It's not that you don't know the name. You know the name, but then you're just asking for the sake of asking or for making it sure. The answer is implied. Implied means it's already in the question itself, understood in the question itself. See the first example. Can flattery soothe the dull, cold ear of death? Now, flattery, what is flattery? When you are praising someone for getting some work done, okay, for getting into the good books of that person, that's called flattery. What do you say in Hindi? Chane ke jhaad pe chadana. Okay, so you are doing that. Maybe he doesn't have the qualities, but you will just tell him that you are so handsome, or you are so good, or you are so kind. Maybe he may be not a handsome person at all, but then you are just saying it to please him. Okay, so that's called flattery. Now the next word, soothe. Soothe means to make you feel good. Like if you have hurt yourself, when you apply that cold ice pack, you feel good. It really helps relieve or lessen your pain, correct? Or numbs your body parts so that you don't feel the pain. So it soothes you. Yes. Now, the dull, cold ear of death. Now, dull, cold ear. Why dull, cold ear? Of death. Now, death means someone has died. When a person dies, it's the whole body that becomes cold. Correct. But here they are specifically telling you or talking about the ear, because when you speak flattery, you're talking. Okay, you're uh, praising the person. So the person has to listen to what you are saying. So here that's what they are saying. No matter how much you praise the person, once he is dead, he cannot hear you. Clear? So the answer is in the question itself. Can flattery soothe the dull cold ear of death? No, it cannot. Once a person is dead, he cannot hear you. It's not just the ear that's become cold, the whole body or the whole person has become lifeless, and thus he has become cold. Okay, let's go to the next example. Was not Helen of Troy a beautiful woman? So here in the question itself, it's understood that Helen of Troy was a beautiful woman. Her beauty was so great that the two countries or two regions had waged war against each other because of her. Okay. Third example, who is there so vile that will not love his country? Now, what is the meaning of vile? Means evil. E-V-I-L, evil. Yes. So, a person who does not love his country is considered to be an evil or a bad person. Because if you don't love your country, you can betray your country and your country will be at a great loss. Yes. So if you are the reason because of which your country is at a loss, the people of the country are hurt or whatever reason, then you are an evil person. So the answer is in the question itself, that the person who does not love his country is an evil person. Going on to the next figure of speech, that's the last one here, is exclamation, which this you already know. Now this exclamation is to draw more attention, to emphasize, to lay stress on some particular point. Okay. Now let's see the first example. What a piece of work is man. So here it is understood that man is a great piece of work by God. God has created so many things. The oceans, the skies, the moon, the sun, the planets. But if you see among all of this, it is man whom God has blessed the most, because he has given man the ability to do things which none of the other things, none of his other creations can do. Man can think, man can run, jump, yes, make things, use his brain, man can talk, yes. So all this makes man different, makes man unique. So man is unique among all the pieces or among all the creation of God. So he is a great piece of work. The second one, so it's just it's just trying to emphasize, lay stress on the fact that man is a great piece of work. Okay, moving on to the second one, how bravely he met his death. So here means he fought very bravely and he died. He was so brave that he did not stop fighting even unto death. Yes, so that's what they're trying to lay stress on, how brave he was. He could have just ran away when he realized he's wounded, or maybe that he's going to die. Maybe that he's surrounded by his enemies and there's no escape for him. He could have tried to run away, but he did not. And he fought even till he died. So here they're trying to lay stress on his bravery, how brave he was. Okay. Now you know exclamatory means there has to be an exclamatory mark. So everything, all your figures of speech I have completed. I hope you all have understood everything. And as I have repeated previously, I'm repeating again. Please do go over all your previous figures of speech and study them properly, thoroughly, along with the spellings and the explanation. Now, the exercise. First of all, you have to do this exercise. Write it in your book and write this notes also in your book. And your exercise, how you will do it. You write the first one, like for example, all the world is a stage. Okay, then under that you will write answer, ANS. The word answer should be there. You will write the answer and then look at each figure of each sentence given. There may be more than one figure of speech in everyone. Okay, so not necessary that there is only one. Okay, you just found it as a alliteration or you found a simile and that's it. No, sometimes there is more than one figure of speech in a sentence. Sometimes there is only one. Clear? Okay, now I will just explain a little bit what it means. Some of them, those which are difficult. All the world's stage is quite easy. The second one, childish treble pipes and whistles. Now remember, these are all the sounds. Treble is the music that you hear, you know, when you're trying to play the music. Yes, they have those little cymbals that come up. Yes, those are the trebles and the pipes, and the pipes are the flute and whistles. Okay, then the third one is easy. Okay, the fourth is also easy. Fifth also. Okay, fifth one, when you're seeing, see there is a comparison made. So you do, if you do are not sure what is being compared to what, just write the basic explanation. Don't go to write this is being compared to this. Just say two different things are being compared. Okay. Yes. The seventh one, okay, this is all nature's fearful wound. This is wound means hurt, ghao. What do you say in Hindi? Ghao. Okay. Then, okay, the seventh one is also okay. You can understand it. Let's go to the next eighth one. An ambassador is an honest man. You know who's an ambassador? An ambassador is someone who stands for your country, means goes abroad on behalf of your country or for some particular work. Like someone can be an ambassador for peace. So he has gone from India to say right now China or Pakistan to tell them that we want peace with the message of peace. Okay, so that is an ambassador. Ninth one is also easy. 10th one is also easy. Among Arabian sands, the 11th one, Arabian sands. Remember that Arabia is a country, Arab countries, you have a lot of deserts. So here you're talking of deserts. The sands, where do you find sand? In the desert. Okay. 12th one, voices louder than their hearts. The 13th, the soldiers fight for glory. And a shilling. Shilling is like a paisa. Yes, very less value of money. Okay. Then 14th one, I rejoice at the happy sight. I have no rest, no joy, no peace. He was gathered to his forefathers. Now, if you look at gathered to his forefathers, who are your forefathers? Hindi word is purvaj. So tell me, are your purvaj grandfathers still alive? No. So they are dead. So that means where did he go? With his forefathers, means he is also dead. Okay. 17th one, wealth I seek not. Wealth means money or gold, precious things. Okay. 18th one, frowning brows of men. Brows, they're talking of eyebrows. Yes, what is frowning? Frowning is when you make a face when you are angry, when you are not happy. The face that you make, your eyebrows also bend inward. Yes, you're not happy. So they're talking of that eyebrows. Okay. Next, experience is the name everyone gives to their mistakes. Last one, she accepted it as a kind of the kind cruelty of the surgeon's knife. Surgeon is someone who operates, who performs an operation. Yes, so surgeon's knife means here they are very specifically telling you that he has operated. That's why they use a knife. Okay, so now think, many of them have more than one figures of speech, and I want you all to think and write. So what you do, you write the figure of speech, write the question. Okay, like the first one, all the worlds are stage. You write your answer and then say supposing it's a simile. So you write over there simile. Under that your explanation. Two things of different kinds are compared. A direct comparison is made. Clear? If there is another one, then you write under that. Supposing it is alliteration. So the letter S is repeated for poetic effect. Okay, these are not the answers. I'm just giving you an example. And then there is still another one. So you will write onomatopoeia. Okay, the sound is indicated in the sentence. Okay, so that's the way you write it. And I don't know how I'll check your answers, but then I'll try. I want you all to do this. Then I will tell you all how I will check your answers. I will think of some way to check your answers. So every sentence you can, if you're not sure, supposing you think you're not sure whether it's a metaphor or a simile, you write it in pencil. Clear? You write it in pencil, or if you do have the time, you can do it in your rough book. And after you all have checked your answer, how I have checked your answer, then you can write it in your grammar notebook so that it looks neat and tidy when I check your book. Clear? Because if you write it in pencil, at least you can erase it and write it. Clear? So, or if like for example, there are four and you have written only three. So leave space after each answer. No problem if your extra pages go. So leave at least 2 lines after each answer. So that in case there is one more figure of speech and you haven't written, and when I check your answers, I can tell you can write one more figure of speech in that space. Clear? So you can leave at least 2 lines, extra lines after writing your answer after each question before you write your next question. Clear? Or best would be that you do it in your rough book so that I can, once I check your answers, you can write it in your fair book and it looks neat. So wishing you all the best, and please, yes, do study because you need to know all this when I'm teaching you your poem. Now once I finish this, I'm not going to start the poem straight away because we have one more thing to learn which we have to apply in our poem is the rhyme scheme. So after I finish, and I will teach you all the rhyme scheme. I will give you all time to do this. I won't check your answers immediately. So you all do this and I will check your answers. I will tell you when I'll check the answers, but then I will teach you the rhyme scheme. Okay? Clear. So wishing you all the best. Have a good day.